It's the big one for the year. It's my 2023 AFL Season and Ladder Predictions. You usually get about 100 comments on these videos, with over 75% of them being negative. So just remember, these are my opinions and my opinions only, and then go loose in the comments. I've got to say, this year, there's a real tight top 8 squeeze for a lot of teams that are looking to take that extra step, with some teams looking to stay in the top 8, and it's just a really, really hard ladder to decide this year. I'm going to say the hardest in a long, long time. So let's start off with 18th, my Wooden Spooners. It shouldn't be a surprise to anyone. There have been quite a few different Wooden Spooners rolling around this year. I've gone with Greater Western Sydney. GWS are a rough one because they've got a brand new coach that, look, don't get me wrong, was a very, very good assistant coach at Richmond in Adam Kingsley, but he's never had a head coaching role before, and taking over a Greater Western Sydney roster, which has a bit of uncertainty about it due to roles to do with, guys like Harry Himmelberg, Stephen Keneally. Greater Western Sydney are in a transitional period that sort of at like a rock bottom period where they need to start entering a rebuild this year, and this will be the year that they take the slump, they take that wooden spoon slump, and they slip into 18th due to not really being able to compete with any other team with the list that they've got. They'll rotate the young guys such as Finn Callahan, Aaron Cabman, obviously the number 1 draft pick, can hopefully kick a few goals this year. But if you've got him as your key forward, number 1 pick or not, I just don't know if Greater Western Sydney will be able to compete at both ends of the ground this year. I've heard some rumours that Harry Himmelberg will be going forward this year to support Aaron Cabman. Personally, I don't rate Himmelberg as a forward. I rate him very highly as a centre half back, and with Phil Davis still having some injury issues, I have a feeling that could be his last year, and I have a feeling that Greater Western Sydney are going to have a year with not very many fun times. Now in 17th, practice matches don't influence my opinion 9 times out of 10, but in this case, it's influenced my opinion quite a lot. I originally had this team at around the 15th to 16th mark, so not a massive drop off, but I've relegated them to 17th in second bottom. Another horrid year for Essendon. Towards the end of the season, they had a horrendous year off field. Their CEO got sacked after a day for some out-of-football issues. There was just a lot happening in Essendon. It was injuries galore. No one knew their role. Ben Rudden was going all over the place, not knowing what to do as a person, as a coach, and what to do with the football club. The list is an interesting one because you've got some incredible talent there, such as Andy McGrath, Darcy Parish, Sam Draper, and Ben Rudden. And the Essendon Football Club just couldn't seem to execute that out of them. Brad Scott, he's their new coach, he's back in the AFL coaching scene, and I think he'll take a couple of years to get used to this Essendon list, and I think the main thing for the Bombers to do is stay patient with him. He's a good coach, he will get the Bombers back up to playing consistent finals footy, but you just got to stay patient because these next few years for Essendon won't be pretty. Coming in at 16th, Alistair Clarkson is no magician. He's not going to take the Roos to the finals in their first year. That's why I've got the Roos in 16th. They've got some fantastic signs. I tell you what, Will Phillips, the third-year player, I mean, he's still pretty much a rookie. You can treat him as he's an absolute gun. You've got George Wardlaw, who's going to be an absolutely fantastic player. And my number one, probably apart from Ashcroft in this year's draft, my number 1 man to look out for, and probably will be up there for the rising star this year, is Harry Sheezel. He has the ability to kick 2 or 3 in the first quarter and spark up a game for North Melbourne, and then roll off the halfback later on in the game when need be. He's a very, very versatile player for his age, and he's a very mature player for his age. He's got a big body. He can do jobs that some really experienced players can't do at the level he does. I'm a big fan of Harry Sheezel. He'll be a big glue stick in the middle of this North Melbourne puzzle this year. They've still got experience there, but it's definitely a transitional period, and it's a transitional period on the up for Alistair Clarkson and North Melbourne. The older guys such as Jack Siebel, Todd Goldstein, they'll hang around for 1 or 2 more years before seeing off this younger list, Alistair Clarkson. I think Alistair Clarkson knows what he's doing. He got in a seasoned veteran like Liam Shields out of retirement, who he used to coach at Hawthorn. He just knows to bring in these seasoned veterans that the normal AFL coach really weren't thinking of bringing in, but you can tell as soon as he brought Shields in, you could see the Clarkson instinct kicking in because he loves to do that with players. It's like what he did with Stuart Dew in the mid-2000s. That's how they won a flag. Clarkson got Dew out of retirement. He was overweight. He wasn't looking in AFL calibre, but he was the exact missing piece that the Hawks needed for a flag. I'm not saying the Roos are going to win a flag this year, but players like that being brought in just showed the Alistair Clarkson way being transitioned into the Roos culture. In 15th, I can't believe they've made their way this high in my ladder predictions. I've got Hawthorn. Hawthorn are a team that have got Sam Mitchell, a not very experienced head coach, but I thought he did a very good job last year. And last year, I predicted them as the team to jump up into potential finals contention. This year, it's taken a turn for the worst. Tom Mitchell has left for Collingwood, Jager O'Meara has left for Fremantle, and the Hawthorns midfield stocks are looking very, very young, but they're held in very good hands from the youngster Cam McKenzie. Was a fantastic talent in the NAB League. There's a reason the Hawks picked him up so early, and he's going to be a player beyond his age this year and controlling and dictating that Hawks engine room with Carl Amon running on the outside with some real nice silky ball skills, as Carl Amon's probably in his prime of his career in that aspect. The forward line, look, we all know it's going to be an issue. The ruck department's going to be an issue. They're two rucks in Ned Reeves and Lloyd Meek. It's going to be a concern. The back line will be solely held down by James Sicily, and it's going to be a rough year for Hawthorn. I could definitely see them winning the wooden spoon, finishing below all the teams I've already mentioned, but I also have a feeling Sam Mitchell can get a tune out of these players. He's played under Alistair Clarkson before, where Alistair Clarkson, I'm not saying the Hawthorn list was anywhere near average when they won a three-peat, but some of the players in there, Clarkson just turned from role players into some real solid players that built a team to a premiership. I think Sam Mitchell has got that built in him from his coach. In 14th, wow, it's the West Coast Eagles. Really didn't think I'd be having them outside the bottom four, and I still do think West Coast are a wooden spoon chance, or a bottom four chance, or they're around this margin, a 14th chance. They've got some players that look old, don't get me wrong. They've got some players that look old, but are still performing. Elliot Yeo, he's looking for a little career revamp. Obviously, he's had a fantastic career, Elliot Yeo, but he's fallen off over the past few years, and he's looking really good this preseason. Shane Hearn and Jeremy McGovern still look like holding down that back line. They look slow, which could be a downfall for West Coast at some stage in the year, but they still look like very solid contributors. West Coast, apart from North Melbourne, probably drafted the best. Ruben Gimby, Elijah Hewitt, Noah Long, the list goes on. West Coast have drafted superbly. Ruben Gimby is the standout of that, of course. He plays through the midfield, he can come off half back, he's 190 centimetres, got a massive body, and at 18 years of age, I couldn't actually believe his age. It looks like he was lying. He's an absolute unit for his age, and watching him in the practice match, he's looked absolutely unreal, and probably West Coast's best player on the ground against Adelaide, and I can't wait to see what he can do this year. The loss of Josh Kennedy due to retirement will hurt West Coast, no doubt. But, Oscar Allen, he was on the inactive list last year. Can he start firing this year? Jack Darling's still dealing with a few injury issues, but if he can, put that aside and get the fitness team working hard on him behind the scenes, West Coast could have a serviceable year. In 13th, I cannot believe they're this low. It's the Gold Coast Suns. I'd love the Suns to make the next push, but to be honest, the race for top 8 is so strong. Like, the strongest I've almost ever seen it. It's absolutely unbelievable. The Suns in 13th feels like an injustice. You got Jared Witts in the ruck, you got Took Miller in the midfield with Noah Anderson and Matt Rao. They've drafted well. They've got some good recruits from other clubs, some underrated recruits, you could say. Connor Blakely from Fremantle, Charlie Constable from Geelong, Ben King, he's off the injury list, he'll be playing for the Suns this year. Everything's looking towards an upward Suns trajectory, and I don't think they'll have a bad year. I actually just think the teams from around the 7th to 13th period will all have around the same amount of wins, and it'll all be decided off percentage. I think it's going to be an incredibly tight season. This 13th place finish is a complete injustice to Gold Coast, and I don't feel like their ladder position reflects my opinion on how bad they'll be this year, because I think they'll be quite good. I just don't know if they're ready to take the next step to make it into finals. I think that will come in the next 2 or 3 years, and yeah, I've got optimism for the Suns this year, and don't take this 13th place finish as anything to go by about the Suns' performance this year. In 12th, I've got the Western Bulldogs. Now, I've got a little less optimism about the Bulldogs than the Suns, even though I had them higher. Now, the reason I have them higher is because the Bulldogs' core and depth is still stronger than Gold Coast, and they're probably added better than Gold Coast. They've got Rory Lobb from the Dockers, who's a fantastic marking target, and he's versatile, and there's been rumours he could go down back if need be. Just quickly, I forgot to mention a massive Bulldogs recruit in Liam Jones. I think he'll be an absolute gun this year, coming back from his sidelining because of the COVID vaccine. So, yeah, big recruit for the Dogs there. The engine room, although the loss of Josh Dunkley is absolutely massive, Bailey Smith, Jack McRae, Marcus Bontempelli, I mean, they'll be fine. They did also lose Lockie Hunter to Melbourne as an outside player, but they'll be fine. Jamari Hugel-Hagan is their key forward of the future. Tim English in the ruck. I mean, as I just said with Rory Lobb, Tim English will get a nice helping hand with Rory Lobb. I just like the Bulldogs list and coach isn't the greatest combination with some other lists and coaching. I think the Beveridge will be sacked at the end of the year, because I think this will be far too low for a team with this good a list to finish. I just don't think Beveridge is the right man for the job. He may lose his head throughout the year, and while the Bulldogs could go in and finish top 4, they're that sort of team that can do that, I just think the Dogs will finish outside the top 8, quite a bit outside the top 8, and I just don't think that they'll have the firepower to beat those top teams that some of these teams around this area will have. In 11th, I've got St Kilda, probably higher than a lot of people. As I've already said, everyone around this 7th to 13th region have around the same amount of wins. St Kilda, I feel like are going to have a really good season for the list that they have, and it's due to one reason, that's due to their head coach, Ross Lyon. They've just reappointed him for the first time since 2011 when he left in 2012 to go to the Dockers, and Ross Lyon has a habit of getting his teams into finals very, very quickly, no matter how good or bad the list is. His most prominent example was Fremantle. He didn't have a good list. He had guys like Matt DeBoer, Paul Duffield, Adam McPhee, and they weren't amazing players, but he turned them into very, very serviceable players and names that live long into the memories of Dockers fans of being good, serviceable players. Ross Lyon has this magical ability that no other coach has to turn, maybe Alistair Clarkson, to turn role players into really serviceable players that can challenge for premierships and finals appearances, and that's why I think St Kilda are going to have a reasonably good year this year. Jack Steele in the engine room cannot be understated. He had his injury issues last year, but he's still an absolute gun. Rowan Marshall in the ruck, I think he'll be the sole ruck this year, and he's going to absolutely dominate, and Max King, if he can fix up a bit of goal kicking, I think the Saints will be just fine. Although early season in the forward stocks, I do have concerns with their injuries. Tim Membry's injured, Max King's injured, Jack Billings is injured. It's not looking good for the Saints in the forward injury department. I must also say though, two draftees I'm really excited to see are James Van Ness and Matthias Filippo, particularly Filippo. He was okay in the practice matches. I think he'll really start to get rolling in the regular season, and I think he's going to be an absolute gun, racking up the ball for fun, and he'll bring a bright spark to some Saints fans watching Saints footy this year. And I think he'll emphasise what St Kilda fans call Saints footy. In 10th, I cannot believe I've gone this low. I think they're a much better team than this, but I've got Port Adelaide. For a team that didn't make finals last year, and it was probably due to the first 5 games of the season where they went 0-5 to start the season. They did not have a good start to the season, and basically stuffed them up for the rest of it. They were playing top 4 calibre footy at times, but they just couldn't hold it all throughout the season. The loss of Robbie Gray and Carl Amor I don't think will be massive impacts. More so Carl Amor will be a bit of an impact, but Travis Boak and Ollie Warren still in that engine room with a potential. The ruck department's what bring question marks in for me. I mean, will it be Scott Lysette, who can barely stay healthy? Will it be Bryn Teagle? Will it still be a Jeremy Finlayson, who I'd probably rather be playing up forward? Port Adelaide's a really strange issue, and that's why I don't think they will boost into finals this year, due to some of the question marks surrounding their ruck and forward departments. I do think they're a very capable team though, and I do think they'll have a good year. In 9th, I think this is the team, if there's any team from the lower half of the ladder to boost into the top 8, it's this team. I just can't put them in the top 8 because I just can't find a spot for them. It's so competitive. It's the Adelaide Crows. I love the Crows. I love watching the Crows. Darcy Fogarty in the forward line is ready to take that next step to superstardom this year. Rory Legg is an absolute ball in that midfield. Rory Sloane's back from his ACL. He's silky smooth. You could sort of compare him to David Mundy in the way where he has so much composure with the ball, and he gives himself so much time to use the ball effectively, and it's what the Crows sort of missed last year, and I think Sloane will be a real underrated addition back to their side this year. They got Isaac Rankin from the Gold Coast Suns. Is he that new Eddie Betts to bring back to Adelaide, with Darcy Fogarty as the tall forward, still with Tex Walker as that other tall forward? We could be close back to seeing the Crows of old, but I don't think this is the year. But I think next year they're definitely making finals if they have a good year this year, because I think that this is the team that I'm really excited to watch this year, the Adelaide Crows. Coming into the top 8, in 8th, they're finally going to make finals, and somehow I couldn't find a high spot for them because I do think they'll have a good year. It's Carlton. The Blues are a good team, there's no doubt about it. Their midfield of George Hewitt, Paddy Cripps, Sam Walsh, Adam Chera, it's very, very good. They've got 2 of the reigning Collingwood medalists in Harry Mackay and Charlie Curnow. It's very, very good. Carlton all round should be ready to make that top 8 jump, and should be ready to make that higher than 8th jump. But the top 8 is so competitive, I can't find a justification for them making it higher than any of the other teams in this list ahead. I'm really excited to see what the Blues can do this year, and I think they have the capabilities to go real deep in finals. But for me, I just don't see it quite yet. And I know I've got quite a large Carlton fan base on this channel, and I know I'm going to get abuse in the comments, but Carlton, I don't like you. I've got to be honest with the heart, I don't like Carlton. But I do think you'll have a good year this year. Don't get me wrong, I still think you have the capabilities to finish top 4. I just can't find a justification to put you in that position. In 7th, I've got my club. I've got the Fremantle Dockers. It's hard for me to put the Dockers this low, but I just think this is where we'll finish. I don't think the Dockers have gotten worse, but I don't think they've gotten better. I think they've sort of stayed the same. I think the loss of Blake Acres is unbelievably big. I think that wing void is going to be very hard to fill. You've got Nathan O'Driscoll with some injury issues already, and when he is healthy, he'll lock down that other wing spot. But you've got a few players that could rotate through there and struggle to find continuity in that position early in the season with the loss of Acres and the level he plays at. You'll be rotating through guys like James Aish and Liam Henry and Ethan Hughes. It'll be a really, really interesting start to the season on how the Dockers line up on that wing spot. And while that is a massive loss, there's a reason we haven't gotten worse. Jago O'Meara from Hawthorn. He said he doesn't like to be compared to David Mundy, but there's a reason he's being compared to David Mundy. His silky smooth composure. He plays like a 35-year-old, but with the energy and aggression of a 27-year-old in his prime. He can burst through packs, but he's got the composure to slow the game down. And he's so silky smooth with the ball. If he can stay healthy all season, the Dockers engine room will be cooking alongside Caleb Sarong and Brownlow Fancy and Andrew Brayshaw, Will Brodie, who still looks unbelievable. The back six is still among one of the best in the league, consisting of Hayden Young, Brendan Cox, their new captain in Alex Pearce. And the forward line, I feel is quite underrated. I think people are saying the Dockers will struggle to kick goals this year. I slightly disagree. I think it will be a bit of a selection squeeze whether you do go with a Taberner, an Amos, or a Tracy in round one. Nat Fyfe has locked down the full forward slot with Luke Jackson playing in deeper forward roles throughout the game as well, which I've got to say, Fyfe and Jackson in those deeper forward roles looked unbelievable in pre-season, like so good. And the Switkowski and Schultz bring an unimaginable amount of pressure, and if someone, especially like Switkowski, who consistently misses half the season every single year with a back issue or something, if he can stay healthy all throughout the year, then the Dockers could really push for a top 4 finish. But there are still a lot of question marks surrounding some spots, which is why I can't justify putting the Dockers any higher. In 6th, I've got Collingwood. It's a fall, but it's not a big fall. I still do think they'll be a good team this year, and I still think they'll continue to win just close game after close game, if I'm being brutally honest. I think the Pies, no doubt, they're a good side, but there was an element of luck in what they did last year, but there can't be any element of luck without an element of skill. I still do think they're a very, very good side, Collingwood. I think Jamie Elliott and Jack Gingerman in the forward line brings a fantastic spark to that side. They worked out the no Grundy ruck issue last year. I have no doubt they'll be fine this year with the Darcy Cameron, Mason Cox ruck combo. I think the Pies will have a solid year. Their back six is fantastic. You've got to remember it's Nick Dacos and Jack Crisp still coming off halfback, moving into the midfield so often, and Collingwood are still probably arguably the most exciting team to watch in the competition at their best. They just go straight down the middle, straight down the guts, and they're absolutely on fire every time they get the ball. And Collingwood, don't get me wrong, they'll be a very good team this year. Again, there's just so many question marks surrounding, you know, all these close wins. What if these all turn into losses, and what if this all turns into a massive ladder drop for Collingwood? But I just couldn't justify having Collingwood even out, not just in low and bottom 8, but just out of finals. In 5th position, I couldn't make a place for them in my top 4. It's so tight, I've had to go with Richmond. I think Tim Taranto is... Luke Jackson's close because of his upside at the Dockers, but Tim Taranto, as an immediate impact, I think is the recruit of the off-season. I think, you know, him and Josh Dunkley are pretty close in terms of impact, because Josh Dunkley is aiming to a stacked engine room, but Tim Taranto is adding something to Richmond they've missed for a while, even throughout their premiership years. Dusty was that explosive player in the packs, and Trent Cotchin was that composed player in the packs, but they haven't really had that in and under absolute raw dog to get in there and get the ball and get it out to the runners, and Tim Taranto is that man. I think he's going to be an absolute bull this year. I think he is going to be the pickup of the off-season, and I think he's just going to be absolutely unreal in his ability to get in and under, win the ball, and use it so efficiently. Jack Rior and Tom Lynch aren't bad players whatsoever. They can still get marks, they can still get goals. There's a reason they're good players, and that's because they get opportunities by getting in good positions and kicking goals. Noah Cumberland, he'll add a usefulness alongside that real positive Richmond transition period, because a transition period when you're finishing 5th is not a bad transition period. That is a real healthy transition period, and it's almost what Geelong have had for quite a while whenever they've moved from the old to the young. The Tigers are a successful football club, and, you know, no matter what happens to their list, such as retirements from Jason Castagna, they'll find a way to battle through, and they're just a fantastically run footy club. This team that I'm putting in 4th is very close with Richmond, but I've just found a way to put them in the top 4. I've gone with the Sydney Swans. The midfield is so young, of Callum Mills, Chad Warner, Errol Golden, Luke Parker, who adds the experience. I've got the retirement of Josh Kearney, who is that composed man in the midfield for so many years for the Swans. That could end up being a loss, but Buddy Franklin will kick goals. Sam Reid, if he stays healthy, is a Coleman Smoky. The back six is held down by the McCargan brothers. Tom Papley is one of the most exciting players in the league, and as I've already said, Chad Warner is ready to take that next step up. I think Errol Golden's ready to take the massive step up. I mean, pre-season, don't read too much into it, but 45 touches and 3 goals against Carlton. Unbelievable. And if Callum Mills can continue his silky smooth, versatile role under John Longmire, I think Mills will continue to be a really vital part of that Swan side, allowing guys like Warner and Golden to flourish through that engine room. In third, I've got the Geelong Cats. I'm not saying they're not going to be the best team this year. I'm only saying that Geelong in the regular season have never historically been fantastic. They had an amazing second half of the season last year, don't get me wrong. But Geelong can just... You can almost just watch Geelong every week and think, yeah, they're playing okay. They're not playing at their best, but they're sort of just getting it done by 10 or 20 every week. And then pick up some really just weird losses to the teams around the 9th to 12th region. And I think that's what the Cats will do again this year. And that's not a bad thing. And they'll go into finals and they'll go on a massive run and they'll probably go and win the flag. It's just what Geelong do. I think it'll happen again this year. They can cruise along with Jeremy Cameron. Their transition, as I've already said, how good it is with Richmond. It's even better with Geelong. They've retired Joel Selwyn and they've brought in Jack Bowes and Taggart Bruin. I mean, some of the young talent that they can bring in and draft consistently from the Geelong Falcons each year is unbelievable. Jeremy Cameron's still probably the best key forward in the league, and there's no debating that. Charlie Kerno may have won the Coleman, but Jeremy Cameron's the best key forward in his around-the-ground work. I think he's unbelievable in his combination with Hawkins. Sam De Koning will only continue to get better holding down the back line with his partner in crime, Tom Stewart. Yeah, I think it's going to be a real good Cat side this year. And I think they very may well could go all the way again. In second place, the Brisbane Lions look scary. They look very scary. Hugh McCluggage on the outside, Will Ashcroft on the inside with Lachie Neale and Josh Dunkley. I mean, the fact I'm putting the name of Will Ashcroft in alongside those names just shows how good this kid is going to be. He's unbelievable is an understatement. He could be the best, top 5 draft pick that we've ever seen in his first year. I'm going to put it out there. Obviously I may have not seen some of the people of the 90s, of the 2000s, but God almighty, from what I'm seeing of this bloke in juniors and in the practice matches, what the hell? He's unbelievable. He's already at the level of a Neale or a Dunkley. So much to learn as well. Will Ashcroft is genuinely going to be the best player, not the best player, one of the best players in the league in the next 2 to 3 years by the time he's 20 or 21. Look, no pressure on the bloke. I haven't hyped him up too much, but God, he's good. Lachie Neale's one at Brownlow. Josh Dunkley's the A-grade midfielder from the Western Bulldogs. They were dying that he was going to leave eventually. He wanted to go to Essendon for a few years ago. He finally got his way out to Brisbane. Thank God. Imagine he went to Essendon. Dunkley's going to be unbelievable. I think Dunkley will work fantastically alongside Neale and Ashcroft. I think they'll complement each other so well. And the forward line, if they can stay out of injury issues this year, Eric Kipwood, Joe Daggerhurt, and the all-almighty 3-time premiership player Jack Gunston. Brisbane were sorted all around the ground. And I think they may not win the flag. I don't think this is the year for them. I think next year when Ashcroft's developed another year, Josh Dunkley's settled into the team another year, I think next year is the flag year for them. And I think overall, though, they could end up being the best team to watch this year. In first place, look, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, they had a disappointing year last year. It's Melbourne. They're the premiers of 2021, but they started the year 9-0 last year, and ever since that loss to the Dockers, it sort of just derailed the rest of their season in terms of playing to that tippity-toppity best. They went out in straight sets, and it wasn't a good look for Melbourne for a lot of that year, but there's 2 words, and that's Brody and Grundy. Unbelievable. I mean, what a pickup to go alongside Max Gawn. What a ruck combination. If Grundy stays healthy and you could rotate Gawn down forward, look, if Gawn was like a ruck, he'd be one of the best key forwards in the comp. If you can just keep rotating those 2 guys around the ground, probably the 2 best ruckmen around the ground in the league, to have that as a ruck combination is probably the best we've ever seen of a ruck combination in the history of the league. Petrarca and Oliver, I mean, they're hitting the primes of their career now. Jack Viner, he's getting towards the twilight, but still ugly career best year in 2021 and 2022. We all know their back sorted, we all know their midfield sorted, along with also the outside addition of Lockie Hunter, who will be playing on the wing, who's a real clean ball user. Their forward issues is just what needs to be sorted, and I think Melbourne will finally get it right this year. A few years of struggling with that forward line, and I think this is finally the year for the D's where they can get that sorted. Okay, on to my grand final. I'm going a boring prediction. I'm going Melbourne versus Geelong, and I'm going Melbourne to win the flag. I think we forget that in 2021 we were talking about a Melbourne dynasty, and I think everyone just fell off the cliff of the earth with forgetting how good Melbourne are last year, and they'll be back to their best this year. They'll continue a dynasty that will be built over the next few years, and I have full faith that this Melbourne roster is the one in the combination with Simon Goodwin. I think he's the right coach. I think this is the right list to take Melbourne forward to a few flags in a row. And look, I hate a dynasty, but unfortunately I think we could be seeing one very, very soon with Melbourne. I just hope that teams like Brisbane, Geelong, Sydney, Freo can derail a few flags off them over the next few years, because I think Melbourne are going to be scary good. I think people are underestimating that. And yeah, the Cats are making it to the big dance again. They seem to do it every year, and they very well could win the thing. Once you get to the big day, they can just sometimes psychologically outplay the other team and just already win before the first bounce, and go out and win by 10 goals. But, you know, as I already said, I don't think Brisbane are ready yet. I think it will take one more year. I think Melbourne and Geelong are both in the prime of their lists, and I think it'll be Melbourne who get the job done on the day. Brownlow medal, give it to me. It's a bit of a shock. I don't like to go generic. I like to go with Richmond's Tim Taranto for the Brownlow medal. His first year at the Tigers, I think he's going to win the Charlie. As I've already said, the in and under nature of Taranto to win the ball and get it out will catch the eyes of the umpires. That umpire that's right on the play all the time. His ability to rove off Toby Nankervis. I think it will be picked up by the umpires so much when voting for the Brownlow over the year that I just think Taranto will win the Brownlow this year. I've just got a weird feeling about it. I think he's just that sort of player that will win a Brownlow in his career. And from all signs, I think this is the year where he will hit his prime and win the Brownlow. Coleman medal, I'm going bold. I could very easily go with Jeremy Cameron, but I'm not. I'm going with Adelaide's Darcy Fogarty. And you might say, well, how's he going to win the Coleman when you've predicted him outside the top 8? Carlton have just had 2 Coleman medalists in a row, and as we all know, they haven't made finals the last 2 years, or as a matter of fact, the last 10 or 11 years. So I think Fogarty's going to have no problem racking up the Coleman this year. I think he's going to kick 50 or 55 goals. I think him and Tex Walker will have a little break off. I think Tex Walker will get the rough end of the stick. I think Tex Walker will retire, and I think that Darcy Fogarty will take the reins as one of the premier goal kickers in the competition. And rising star, I'd love to go unique with like Harry Sheasel or something, or Ruben Gimby, but realistically it's Will Ashcroft. I mean, he's clearly the best rookie, and unless he gets injured, I see no reason why he won't win it. Thank you all for watching these season predictions. It's always controversial, so make sure you leave your comments down below. And if you are new, the footy season is right here. Please hit that subscribe button. There is so much content coming out over this year, and just in 5 weeks, Gather Round gets underway in Adelaide. I'll be over there with a bunch of other AFL creators making so much content over there, and you do not want to miss that. So make sure you subscribe to the channel, you hit the like on this video, and you leave a comment down below on your thoughts on these predictions. Thank you all for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers.